When we talk about true crime, we usually have to deal with horrific cases in which the most disturbing things can happen to people that really did not deserve it. Families are just thrown into tragedies that one can never expect. And sometimes those tragedies have no explanation and leave an entire town dumbfounded as in why did this happen? I think that no better example is the recent case of Holly Hatcher. The death of Holly Hatcher, the mother of up-and-coming country music singer Spencer Hatcher, was a result of a violent and highly unusual random home invasion in Rockingham County, Virginia, on the night of August 3, 2025. Sheriff Bryan Hutcheson described the case as unlike anything he has seen in his 31 years of law enforcement, citing both the randomness and the violence involved. This is going to be really strange in many ways. I'm going to give you the details of the case and now the sort of press conference that both the son and the husband of Holly gave about the case. A couple disclaimers. This is not really a body language analysis. They are grieving Holly right now. I'm just going to analyze or try to make some kind of sense of the perpetrator in this case, which is dead, by the way. The perpetrator was shot and killed by Holly's husband. But the details are really strange. But well, these are the key details of the case. The victim, Holly Hatcher, 62 years old, former teacher who worked at Rockingham County Public Schools for 19 years and was widely remembered as a beloved colleague. Incident around midnight on August 3, Hatcher and her husband, Michael Hatcher, were at home when an intruder broke in. This was, midnight on a Sunday. The attacker was identified as 41-year-old Kevin Moses Walker, who had no known criminal history. Walker entered the Hatcher home wielding a large knife and fatally stabbed Holly Hatcher, just like that. As in, Michael Hatcher was able to retrieve a pistol from his car and shot Walker in the driveway, killing him. The home invasion was deemed random. And this is from a guy who apparently had no criminal record. Walker had been seen on surveillance video at a Walmart nearby 2 days prior, where he purchased a knife and a sleeping bag. He was also renting a campsite at Endless Caverns around the same time and had reportedly been in a car crash 2 days before the attack. The town and the family have been deeply affected. Sheriff Hutcheson, in a statement, emphasized the unusual and shocking nature of the crime. We're going to see this video right now. And Spencer Hatcher announced that he was canceling upcoming performances due to his mother's death. He expressed gratitude for public support and hopes to perform for his fans again in the future. Yes, this is something that is repeated over and over again. The sheriff repeatedly highlighted both the strangeness and violence of the attack, stressing the lack of any clear reason for Walker's action and the highly unusual sequence of events. I want to give you also a picture of the suspect, which I think is going to be important in this research. I'm going to give you a picture right now so you can have a better idea of what we are dealing with. Meanwhile, we're going to switch to the video itself, which we're going to watch in its entirety. But first, I want you to take a look at this suspect. This is Kevin Moses Walker. I think there's a better picture. Is him walking out of Walmart with a sleeping bag and just having bought a large knife. We don't know if it was the knife in which he used to kill Holly, but it was a really big guy. He's a huge guy. So no criminal record. Let's watch the video to find out more about this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we come to you all this evening with a joint statement between the Hatcher family and the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office on the horrific event that happened at my home Sunday night that resulted in the murder of my mother and serious injuries sustained to my father. What we want to speak about is not any of the speculation, because this is a highly unusual event. There's been a lot of rumors, but we're coming to you this evening with just the facts that we know.
Again, I don't know what kind of speculation he is talking about, because in fact, the event is pretty straightforward. But let's continue.
There is no question in these facts. This is what we know, and this is coming from the investigation and the things that have been determined as factual from the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. And I'm going to turn it over now to my dad, Michael Hatcher, who is here, as well as the Sheriff of Rockingham County, Mr. Bryan Hutcheson.
There's no way for you to know the trauma and the pain and the unanswered questions that I have had, that my three sons, Dane, Spencer, and Connor, have had, Holly's family has had, and my mom and my two sisters have had about this terrible tragedy. Each of you have made it much more bearable through your outpouring of love and your caring and your kindness and support to all of us. And for that, I thank you so much. I want you to know that the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office, especially Bryan Hutcheson and the Rockingham County Fire and Rescue that initially treated me on site that night of my injuries, and everybody associated with the entire investigation, has gone so far above and beyond what I ever expected out of any of this. I can't tell you how much that they have helped us through this by keeping us informed. Not that they had to, but because they wanted to. They drove to where we were staying and they kept us up to date. They brought things that we needed from the house. We were concerned about the dogs and the cats. They took care of feeding them, making sure they had water. The crime scene was cut off from us for about 3 days. So during that entire time, they took care of all of these things and handled our requests just like we had hoped.
Okay, so far, I'm just going to address a couple of things. Seeing the father, or the husband, Holly's husband, being much more affected, or speaking in a much more affected way than the son, that was the guy who we saw at the start of the video. Maybe that is one of the reasons people say that this is suspicious. Why is the son so calm and collected, which he wasn't? He was displaying emotional, had emotional displays. The father, Holly's husband, is way more affected. He is containing a lot of emotions. It stands out. Only thing that I could say, the kind of stuff that I just can't help but catch, is that he talked about his house as the crime scene. He talked about we have to be kept from the crime scene. He didn't say we have to be kept from our home or our house or the house. Okay, he was really like technical about that. I don't know, maybe. He was instructed to speak like that. Just a couple observations. I insist that I'm not judging them.
I've heard a lot of you say that there are no words to explain this, and there aren't. And there's going to be questions that will never be answered. But all I can tell you is we've cried, we've hurt, and we've hugged, and we have found more love than we have ever known has existed between us and between you.
Again, I've seen videos like this. I don't know, that way that his voice breaks. That is really hard to fake. That is, I would say, this is completely genuine. So if for all those people saying that this is something suspicious, no, I think this is the real deal.
Thank you, Bryan. You got to help me out here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and God bless you. That means a lot. And in talking with the family this morning, we felt like this was the right thing, the right way to go about. Again, highly unusual and very, very tragic situation that occurred this week, and hear the family side of it as well as the investigative side of it. But I'm going to start by saying that for me, that's an overlap because I've known the Hatcher family for a great number of years myself. When all of them were probably not much taller than this desk we're sitting at, running around the Little League ball fields and playgrounds of Rockingham County. And my oldest son had Holly as a teacher in school. Absolutely loved.
So we're talking about a very small rural town. This is something that everybody knows each other. And for this to happen here, it was so shocking that that's one of the things that we don't get. Why did this happen this way?
And I'm sure I can speak for many, many other children she taught over the years as to what a wonderful, wonderful teacher and influence on their life that she was. And so, again, that personal side of it for me and love for the Hatcher family, the Hatcher boys, a wonderful crew you just can't say enough about. But getting to the investigative side and touching on some of the facts and updates as far as that goes, we wanted to start by going back to the original press release that I sent out on Tuesday. We're going to put that on the screen for you and quickly go over that. We put that on August the 5th, and it reads as follows. At 11:58 p.m. on Sunday, August the 3rd, the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office responded to an emergency call for service involving a home invasion with an armed intruder in the 13,000 block of North Valley Pike. Deputies immediately responded to the scene and located a male subject outside the residence that was determined to be the caller and the owner of the home. The caller, Mr. Michael Hatcher, a 65-year-old male, was suffering from visible injuries sustained during the home invasion and subsequent altercation with the armed intruder. Another male subject was located in the driveway outside the home and was determined to be deceased. This individual was later identified and determined to be Mr. Kevin Moses Walker, a 41-year-old male of Pikesville, Maryland.
Part of the reason why people say that this is suspicious is that this guy, this big guy, enters the house, begins stabbing Holly, stabs her to death, then begins struggling with the husband, and the husband has the opportunity to get out of the house and into the car, look for a gun, and then shoot him in the head. All right, so, well, let's continue.
Deputies entered the home and located a female victim of the home invasion, Miss Holly Hatcher, a 62-year-old resident of the home and wife of Michael, who was determined to be deceased. The Virginia State Police was contacted and investigators from both agencies began the investigation into this homicide. It was determined the offender entered the home armed with a large knife and stabbed the victim, causing her fatal injuries. The offender proceeded to attack the caller with the knife, and an altercation began. The altercation continued outside the residence, and the caller was able to retrieve a handgun from his vehicle and fire a single shot, which stopped the attack and killed the offender.
It would be also interesting to know exactly the order of how the events unfolded.
At that time, I stated this investigation is still ongoing, with Rockingham County Sheriff's Office and Virginia State Police both working very hard on discovering all the facts and highly unusual circumstances involved in this violent and tragic crime. Out of respect for the privacy of the victim's family, no additional details will be released. Upon consultation with the Commonwealth's Attorney Marcia Garst this morning, there'll be no charges filed due to the offender being deceased. Now, going to the timeline and some facts that we have been able to definitely obtained and determined since that time, and this is with our investigators and the Virginia State Police investigators working on this thing basically continuously ever since. The timeline we can kind of lay out for you, the things that we know or are able to prove is as follows. The first begins with Friday, August the 1st, and that is at 2:22 p.m. when the offender rented a campsite at Endless Caverns, as well as paid for the tour of the caverns, which is a 1-hour tour, and that tour he took started at 3 p.m.
Just 2 days before the murder, right? He was in a tour of some caverns.
Next, we know the offender at 5:24 p.m. entered the Timberville Walmart, went back to the outdoor section, and purchased a sleeping bag and a large knife.
This is the same day that he took that tour of some caverns. He completed the tour in 1 hour and then went to a Walmart to buy a sleeping bag and a knife. All of this is confirmed.
You can see here, this is a photo of the offender exiting the Walmart store in Timberville with those two items at 5:45 p.m. on Friday, August 1st. The next call of any kind that came in was Saturday, August the 2nd at 6:37 in the morning. The Virginia State Police received a call for an abandoned disabled vehicle believed to have been involved in a crash of some kind on Endless Caverns Road. The Virginia State Police troopers immediately responded, determined that the vehicle was properly registered, it was not stolen. They located a one-night Endless Caverns parking pass inside the vehicle and proceeded to go back to Endless Caverns looking for the driver and anything related to that vehicle. They realized that the store at Endless Caverns had been broken into, and it had damages consistent with having been rammed by a motor vehicle. And those damages and other evidence found were very consistent with the damages sustained by the abandoned disabled vehicle they had just encountered on Endless Caverns Road.
Okay.
They also were able to determine that the offender had gone inside, unlocked the door to the caverns, kind of going in through the outway, and entered the caverns themselves, as well as entering the store, but no items were stolen from the store.
But no items were stolen from the store. Okay. What?
The offender was identified throughout that process, and the checks were on him revealed that he was not wanted and that he was fully licensed to operate a motor vehicle. The premises were canvassed by the multiple Virginia State Police troopers, who then patrolled that entire area with their patrol vehicles, looking for the offender anywhere in that whole area with no results. A drone was contacted and utilized to canvass to look through that entire area from the air to kind of see from above in any attempt to try to locate that offender from that vehicle with no results. No phone calls came in, no leads of any kind of anybody having seen anything they received. The vehicle was impounded and felony warrants were obtained for the offender at that time. Again, there was no indication of any violence or potential for any violence from the offender that Virginia State Police became aware of throughout that investigation into that disabled vehicle. They handled that entire incident by themselves. And again, there was no indications or reports of anything other than what we just discussed. The next call came in was the one I just talked about. That was Sunday night, August the 3rd at 11:58 p.m. when we received the phone call that was an emergency call placed by Mr. Mike Hatcher, which gets us back to the information I just talked about in the original press release. But a couple things, really points of emphasis that we want to, again, clarify some of the speculation and other things that go with that. The Rockingham County Sheriff's Office received no calls of any kind throughout that entire weekend, and that's Friday through Sunday up until the first call we received was 11:58 p.m.
That is the kind of how peaceful is the county. That is nothing happens the whole weekend, and all of a sudden at 11:58 on a Sunday they got this crime. This is bananas.
Of the emergency itself and the tragic crime. There was no other calls of any kind that we received. There were no other reports other than the single one that the VSP received. They received no other phone calls during that whole time other than the one at 6:37 a.m. on Saturday morning. There were no reports No phone calls in to either our offices or the dispatch to any law enforcement, any otherwise phone calls or reporting of suspicious, disruptive, illegal activity of any kind that came in whatsoever during that time period. So wanted to place emphasis on that and clarify it. And then the one other point, the only other call for service of any kind for first responders, public safety that came in was Sunday, August the 3rd at 7:08 p.m. And that was for a report of a structure fire. And that was on Arcton Road. The Rockingham County Fire and Rescue responded to that structure fire and were able to determine definitively that that fire was accidental in nature. It was caused by a candle that tipped over onto some combustible materials and set that residence fire that ignited that fire. Nothing suspicious, surely accidental. They determined that definitively Sunday evening. So again, that's what we know at this point. So I wanted to emphasize those things and also hopefully clarify the investigation is still ongoing. Our office, as well as Virginia State Police, will continue to turn over anything we can find, anything to determine the facts of this matter. We're going to continue to do that. This is just an update of where we are here, a little bit later in the week, and wanted to convey to you, from an investigative as well as a personal standpoint of where we were. But definitely a highly unusual, apparently a completely random, with an individual with no known history of violent behavior of any kind, or even criminal behavior of any kind. And so very, very random, very unusual. Speaking personally with 31 years in law enforcement for me, I have never seen anything like it in my entire career, just the way the unusual, unique, and just crazy situation that this turned out to be. But again, very active. We're still working on it, and we'll continue to do so. We'll provide updates first and foremost to the Hatchett family and anything else as appropriate as we proceed forward. But emphasizing, as I also put in that original release, there's no prosecution. There's no charges that'll be placed because the offender's deceased.
I don't know why they feel compelled to repeat that again and again. Yeah, no charge. Yeah, how could there be any charge? Maybe they mean that the suspect was acting alone, so there's no one else involved.
So I want to close by just saying thank you. Thank you for listening. Hopefully this does serve to clarify maybe some confusion or misunderstandings about this whole thing. Hopefully you understand where we're coming from. And again, that being law enforcement as well as the Hatchett family, and clarify somewhat, at least, some of the facts or some of what occurred. And lastly, and certainly most importantly, our thoughts and our prayers continue to be with the Hatcher family in this difficult time. God bless them.
So again, I can understand, and it's mandatory, of course, the respecting the privacy of the family in this case. It's important to, say, conceal all the details of the case, which is really strange in itself, in how it developed. And I think the most important question is not only why did this happen, because it seems so random, it's out of the blue, and what was the actual order of events? How did events unfold? This is one of the things when we are talking about true crime that you should exercise in your mind. I do that for conversations. I suggest that for persuasion. But in true crime, it helps a lot exercise your imagination and your ability to visualize a thing. It's like you visualize the intruder armed with this large knife entering the house. And you have no details. You just have the intruder just going in. How did he enter the house? Was the door open? You guess that the door was just open. Maybe it's maybe they leave. They leave their doors unlocked. It was Sunday at midnight. I don't know. Maybe they were sleeping. Maybe they were watching TV. And this intruder enters with the knife in some way and attacks Holly directly. There's no time for anything. Maybe Holly was at some area of the house and Michael was not in there. The murderer just attacks her. Michael is unaware, hears Holly screaming. This is all, I'm just making up things in my mind, trying to make sense of this, right? Because I don't know how could this work if Holly and Michael would have been at the same place and the perpetrator with the knife in hand had found both of them, because the logical development would have been for the murderer to go for Michael first. Like, he's the man, you attack the man first. It's something logical. So what I'm guessing is that Holly was alone. The attacker found her alone and he attacked her first. Michael hears Holly's screams, try to visualize this, and then rushes to help her. Sees what is going on. He tries to, maybe he tries to help Holly, or maybe instantly the attacker turns out to him and stabs him in the arm. You see that Michael had this some kind of bandage on his right arm. He was defending himself with his right arm. We don't know with which hand was the attacker wielding the knife. It would make more sense to, be defending yourself with your left hand, because most attackers are right-handed. Again, all of this, I'm trying to imagine stuff that we have no idea how it unfolded. So Michael goes out of the house into the car that might have been unlocked. He immediately retrieves a weapon that we don't know what kind of weapon and fires, and I understand. This is not confirmed. I think there was a shot to the head and the attacker just was dead on the spot. This is what we could think that happened, that we could imagine what happened, trying to go through the steps. We don't know the layout of the house. We don't know so many things. We don't know where was the car in regards to the house. Maybe at some point we will have more information about this. Maybe we won't. But I just wanted to highlight this murder because of the randomness. But it's not only randomness, but it was like the guy went straight to go for Holly for no reason whatsoever. This doesn't make sense. And that is the kind of things that sometimes you say, hey, maybe the guy was on this, maybe what, we don't know if he was drugged. Maybe that is a possibility. We don't know. We have to take this into account as well. We don't know if this kind of press conference that we saw, in which was both Holly's son and husband, they were there just to make sure that, there are no, how to put this, racial stuff out there. You know the usual argument that is going to. We already saw that. I already saw that on the comments on the New York Post. That could be a possibility as well. That could be a reason why they are giving a press conference, because the sheriff could have spoken by himself without the family. Maybe the family wanted to. Maybe Michael wanted to thank for all the support, for all the love, for all the outpouring of love, for all the community. He wanted to say some words and make those words public, and that is understandable because it should be a very difficult time. But again, it's something that we want more details. It's just from a scientific perspective, what happened here? What happened with this murder? But again, I would like to know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the crime coroner. Much love and bliss.